Good afternoon, good evening. Hey, first and foremost, I wanted to say thank you so much to Scott for putting this together, and he's a real treasure for your university. So if we give also the wonderful ensemble here, I have Hannah and CJ joining me. We're calling So tonight is a little bit of a special treat. I like to think of this as a living room session. And amusingly enough, if you guys really want to spread out, you can kind of put some pillows up and sit around, lean over the balcony if you like, relax. But so what I want to do tonight is walk you guys through the project that you're going to hear from the viewpoint of giving you some of the insight into what generates the compositions. So first and foremost, what you're going to be seeing and hearing is a kind of a tour of this project. It's called The Book of Ice. And I took a studio to Antarctica and went to several of the main ice fields and was working on this idea of how would a composer look at the contemporary landscape. Now, in the 19th century, you had people like Wagner and the idea of the German expressionists, romantics, all sorts of stuff going on. And in the 20th century, you had people like Debussy's La Mer, or for that matter, John Cage's later pieces in a landscape, for example. But with ice, it's an incredible material that's kind of transformative. It moves between liquid and solid, it's unstable, it's got this very specific sense of a science of acoustics going on. So whenever you see a piece of ice, you're actually looking at this kind of pure geometry. And it's about permutation. You're seeing a hexagonal form repeating over and over. So if you ever walk through a snowstorm, you're actually walking through a beautiful sense of mathematics. And as a composer, I've been influenced by people like Steve Reich on one hand, or John Luther Adams, who just won the Pulitzer Prize a little while ago as well. So when you see a piece of ice, you're actually looking at this geometric form that kind of has what you call recursion going on, a fractal. So as a composer, I was intrigued by the history of that. And tonight, much of the material you're going to be seeing is based on some of the equations of Johannes Kepler. He was on his way home in 1611, and a snowflake landed on his sleeve. And he was stunned by the geometric beauty of it, and he went home and wrote one of the first mathematical treatises on describing the ice. It's called Six Sides of a Snowflake. And so basically the equations that he used to generate this idea of examining why there's a hexagonal permutation in the hexagon of the ice flake, that generates a whole bunch of stuff. So when you think about ice and nature, this is a very famous piece called The Wanderer Above Fog. Again, a very particular piece of art from the 19th century that described this idea of the triumph of reason over nature. We have to rethink our relationship to nature, and that's what tonight's about. Being in Antarctica for 6 weeks and taking a small studio and then working with mobile media, cell phones and tablets to write the piece. Tonight I'm going to be doing the whole thing from this iPad, and what I'm going to be doing is looping and layering elements of how we are going to be playing the piece. So when you see an app, it's kind of, this is what's part 2 of this piece. It's called The Imaginary App. It's a book I just did at MIT, and a lot of my work's about science, art, and technology. And for the Book of Ice, I worked with Brian Greene, who's a very renowned quantum physicist, and he wrote a very, very famous best-selling book called The Elegant Universe. So I worked with him for the math, and then for the book called The Imaginary App, I worked with Stephen Wolfram, who's a very legendary mathematician. So everything you're going to be hearing tonight is about patterns. And when you think about hip-hop, techno, dubstep, all of the styles of music that come out of the urban context, they're about tempos and about rhythms in a way that have been sort of set up in a computer and edited. So let's think about that tonight as we unfold some of the material. And I just want to show you really quickly. By the way, this is the tour of the hard drive. So everything you're seeing is based on this album. It's called Of Water and Ice. And I've imported all the elements into my iPad app. And that app is this one. And it lets you pull all the material together and loop and layer. So for example, if I want to just do a quick demo before we get in, let's have you guys play Check Your Math. And it's going to show you a little bit of the geometry work, but they're going to play the motif and we're going to have the riff.